Hi, welcome to the 10-minute video summary of the message that was shared at Henrietta Christian Fellowship on the 29th of May, 2022. We're talking about draw near to God, living in the presence, okay? So James 4, 6 through 8, but he gives a greater grace. Therefore it says, God is opposed to the proud, but gives grace, or this gift of being able to come near, okay, being saved, okay, to the humble. Submit therefore to God. You're going to be told to submit to God and draw near to God. Submit therefore to God, resist the devil, he'll flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Okay? Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. I want you to see this kind of back and forth between being called into God's presence, entering into his presence because we know we're loved and that God calls us there. But on the other hand, recognizing that the right response of heart is to live a life that's a testimony to what God is doing. All right, so one day we're going to draw near to God for all eternity, right? Okay, you go back to the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve lived in the presence of God. All right, you go forward to eternity, and those who are the faithful will live for eternity in the presence of God. Psalm 24, 1 through 10. I'm not going to read the whole thing because we're constrained time-wise here, okay? But it's a Psalm of David. The earth is the Lord and all it contains, and the world and those who dwell in it. For he has founded upon the seas, established upon the rivers. Who may ascend into the hill of the Lord, and who may stand in his holy place? He who has clean hands, a pure heart. See the reflection back and forth here between there and James. He who has not lifted up the soul of falsehood and who has not sworn deceitfully, he shall receive a blessing from the Lord and righteousness from the God of his salvation. Okay. And so Micah 4, 1 through 2. And it will come about in the last days that the mountain of the Lord, the mountain of the house of the Lord, will be established as chief of the mountains. It will be raised above the hills. The peoples will stream to it. Many nations will come and say, come and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord and to the house of the God of Jacob, that he may teach us about his ways and we may walk in his paths. Okay, that was a song. I'm not going to sing the whole thing, but come and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord and to the house of our God. And then a little farther and it says, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. Okay, so I mean, this is, why do I sometimes sing to you? Because I don't know if you know this, but in your brain, God established two different places. When I talk like this, you store it in one place. Music, you store in a different place. In fact, sometimes people that are, up in years and have kind of lost contact with the outside world may not respond to your words, but I'll tell you what, try singing to them. Okay, so we can have a taste of it now. Do we live with a lonesomeness that God didn't intend? Feeling alone in life. All right, because Psalm 69, 16 through 17, the psalmist says this, answer me, O Lord, for your loving kindness is good. According to the greatness of your compassion, turn to me. Listen, look at what his expectation is here. And don't hide your face from your servant, for I'm in distress. Answer me quickly. So in the middle of some difficult situation, he's crying out to God. He's not alone. All right, and he's asking God to draw near. So draw near to listen. Okay, the blessing is in what we've heard from God. All right, 1 Corinthians 14, 24 and 25 talks about if all prophesy, if all of us speak what God's speaking to us, it says the unbelievers will come in and know that God is among us. We're living in God's presence. All right, so it says guard your steps as you go to the house of God and draw near to listen rather than to offer the sacrifice of fools. The babbling blah, 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 that comes from, and the word that's for fool here is a stupid and arrogant person. Okay, don't do that. All right, and then a little later on in this passage, it says, for God is in heaven, you are on the earth, therefore let your words be few. We've turned this into a love song for worship recently, but it was actually a warning about don't be flippant, don't be careless as you enter into the presence of God. Another thing to remember as you enter into the presence, as you draw near, beware of pretending or trying to hide things from God. All right, I mean, better to just give a full open, this is who I am, and obviously ready to repent. But Isaiah 29, 13 and 15 says, then the Lord said, because this people draw near with their words and honor me with their lip service, but they remove their hearts far from me, and their reverence for me or their fear of me consists of traditions learned by rote. And as they learn how to pretend, they learn how to act, we know how to act in church, but this is, he's saying there's something deeper. Woe to those who deeply hide their plans from the Lord and whose deeds are done in dark places, and they say, who sees us or who knows? Okay, and the answer to the question is God sees and knows, all right? And so don't pretend, don't hide, be honest about, where you're at, and just, but humble and repentant as well, all right? So we have the privilege of drawing near to God through Jesus. Jesus is one of the three persons of the Trinity. He is God, but to draw into the presence of all of what God has for us and all that God is, and to come into that presence, we can do that in Jesus. Jesus said this in John 14:6, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. So we can come to the Father through Jesus, okay? Hebrews 4:14-16. Therefore, since we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God. You might remember when Jesus died on the cross, the veil of the temple, which is meant that the priests could go in, but you couldn't. That veil was torn in two because our high priest entered. And it says, because of that, let us hold fast our confession. For we don't have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who has been tempted in all things as we are, yet without sin. Therefore, let us draw near with confidence, all right, to the throne of grace, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need. All right. So again, drawing near, God's favor and the better hope. All right. Hebrews 7:19. For the law made nothing perfect. Okay, because he had to keep going back and doing it over and over and over again, because you could address the sin, but you couldn't change the sinner. All right. So it says, and on the other hand, there is the bringing in of a better hope through which we draw near to God. Barnes' note says this hope is the introduction of the gospel, brings this better hope. All right. And so it gives us a more certain way of obtaining the divine favor, all right, and much better than what the law could provide. All right, so Hebrews 7:25, therefore he, Jesus, is able to save forever those who draw near to God through him, since he always lives to make intercession for them. In the old sense, the priests came and went. They lived, they died, and their ministry ceased, okay? I can serve in a priestly role in your life, but I am not your priest. Jesus is your priest. He's the one who stands between you and God and intercedes for you, all right? And so, sometimes you have a hard time accessing that, and I may have to help you. But in the end, what I'm trying to do is connect you with Jesus, who is that priest who stands in the presence of the Father to intercede for us. Okay, so together we share this blessing as we draw near. And I want to make it clear, drawing near to God is not just, for personal benefit. It's to become more of a blessing to others. Listen to this from Hebrews 10:21-25. And since we have a great high priest over the house of God, let us draw near with a sincere heart in full assurance of faith, having our hearts sprinkled clean from an evil conscience and our bodies washed with pure water. Let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promised is faithful. Remember that. And let us consider how to stimulate one another. We've drawn near. Now we're going to consider how to stimulate one another to love and good deeds, and not forsaking our own assembling together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. Now, sometimes the scriptures use as a hammer to make people feel bad that they didn't go to church or something, but here's what it is. No, you see what it is, we have this blessing, and it should be our great desire to enter into fellowship with one another so we can share that blessing and encourage each other, and even more as we see the end times coming upon us. And the last invitation of the New Testament, found in Revelation 22 verses 17 and following, we are invited to come. The bride, and the groom, they say, come. Jesus and the bride, they say, come. And he's the person who hears, say, come. All right. So there's this invitation at the end of the New Testament, and it tells us to come. So draw near to God in some special way this week, and we'll see you next time on the 10-minute video summary.